This trailer doesn't ask for your attention. It demands it. From the very first second, you can feel that something is different, something darker, heavier, and impossible to escape. This isn't a season that builds slowly. This is a season that hits you in the chest and refuses to let go. The Chosen Season 6 is not gentle. It is not comforting. It is brutal, and it wants you to feel every single moment of it. Season 6 begins with a feeling that hangs in the air like a storm that has already decided to break. There is no warm setup, no sense of safety, no illusion that things might somehow turn out fine. From the start, the story makes one thing very clear. The path ahead is fixed, and everyone knows it, even if they are too afraid to say it out loud. This season does not walk toward the cross. It runs toward it. Season 6 begins with a feeling that hangs in the air like a storm that has already decided to break. There is no warm setup, no sense of safety, no illusion that things might somehow turn out fine. From the start, the story makes one thing very clear. The path ahead is fixed, and everyone knows it, even if they are too afraid to say it out loud. This season does not walk toward the cross. It runs toward it. Jesus is no longer moving freely among the people, teaching openly, healing publicly, or challenging leaders with calm authority. That chapter is closing fast. The tension now comes from silence, from restraint, from a man who could defend himself, but chooses not to. Every moment feels heavier because we know what is coming, yet we are powerless to stop it. The pain doesn't come from surprise, it comes from inevitability. The weight of this season rests on Jesus' decision to surrender without resistance. Not because he is weak, but because he understands something no one else fully does. That this suffering has a purpose beyond survival. While the world around him grows louder, angrier, and more violent, he becomes quieter. That contrast is terrifying. Power, in this season, does not look like strength. It looks like control over fear. Around him, everything is falling apart. The disciples are no longer confident followers filled with hope. They are scared, confused, and divided inside their own hearts. Some want to fight, some want to run, some are still waiting for a miracle that will change everything at the last second. But the tragedy of Season 6 is this: the miracle is not escape. The miracle is endurance. The authorities sense that the moment they've been waiting for has finally arrived. Their fear of Jesus has turned into determination. They don't just want him gone. They want him humiliated, broken, and erased. The tension doesn't come from secret plans anymore. It comes from open hostility. The walls are closing in, and there is no place left to hide. What makes this season especially brutal is how human it feels. There is no exaggerated villainy, no cartoonish evil. Every decision feels disturbingly realistic. Leaders justify themselves. Crowds follow momentum instead of truth. Friends stay silent when speaking up would cost too much, and in the middle of it all stands Jesus, calm, bruised, and unyielding in his obedience. Season 6 forces us to sit with discomfort. It doesn't rush past the emotional weight of betrayal, fear, and moral collapse. It lets those moments breathe, making the audience feel the slow burn of dread. You're not watching history unfold from a safe distance. You're standing inside it, watching people fail in ways that feel painfully familiar. There is a crushing sense that everyone is being tested, not by violence, but by pressure. Who will speak? Who will stay silent? Who will choose convenience over truth? And who will be willing to lose everything for something they cannot yet fully understand? By the end of this opening chapter, one thing is clear. This season is not about whether Jesus will survive. It is about whether anyone else will survive what comes after. The tone is relentless, the emotion is raw, and the message is unavoidable. Season 6 is not here to entertain you. It is here to confront you. And this is only the beginning. As Season 6 moves forward, the most unsettling thing isn't the shouting crowds or the violent threats. It's the silence. Jesus speaks less than ever before, and that silence becomes louder than any accusation thrown at him. Every unanswered question feels intentional, like he is choosing restraint in a world desperate for noise. And that choice makes people uncomfortable. Silence exposes hearts in a way words never can. The religious leaders press harder, not because they are confident, but because they are afraid. They sense that time is slipping away. Jesus has already changed too much, stirred too many minds, and challenged too many systems. Now they are no longer debating truth. They are protecting power. And power, when threatened, always becomes cruel. What we see here is not justice being served, it is fear dressing itself up as righteousness. The trials feel chaotic and rushed, like everyone involved knows the outcome but still pretends there is a process. Witnesses contradict each other, accusations fall apart under scrutiny. Nothing holds together, and yet the verdict feels decided before a single question is asked. This is where Season 6 becomes deeply uncomfortable to watch because the injustice is obvious, and no one seems willing to stop it. Jesus stands in the middle of all this and does nothing to save himself. Not because he can't, but because he won't. His calm presence becomes a mirror, forcing everyone around him to face who they truly are. Some grow angrier, some grow quieter, some can't even meet his eyes. The season makes you feel the tension of that gaze, the feeling of being seen completely without judgment, without defense. The disciples are unraveling. Fear doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly. First as confusion, then as doubt, then as survival instinct. They are no longer arguing about greatness or leadership. They are simply trying to hold themselves together. Watching them struggle is painful because their weakness feels honest. These are not heroes in this moment. They are ordinary people watching everything they believed in collapse. Peter's confidence cracks. Judas's inner conflict tightens like a noose. The others fade into the background, overwhelmed by events they cannot control. Season 6 doesn't rush these emotional breakdowns. It lets them happen in real time, making every second feel heavier than the last. You're not just watching faith tested, you're watching it strain under unbearable pressure. The crowd outside grows louder, more aggressive, more certain, not because they know the truth, but because they've chosen a side. That is one of the most frightening themes of this season, how easily people trade truth for belonging, how quickly outrage replaces reason, how fast compassion disappears when fear takes over. And still, Jesus remains silent. That silence is not empty. It is full of meaning, full of surrender, full of resolve. It tells us that this story is no longer about proving anything. It's about fulfilling something far greater. The tension now doesn't come from wondering what will happen. It comes from realizing why it must happen. By the end of this section, the weight becomes almost unbearable. You can feel the walls closing in, the options disappearing, the final steps approaching. Season 6 doesn't give you space to breathe. It wants you to feel the pressure, the injustice, and the heartbreak, because that is exactly where the story is heading. And once the silence breaks, nothing will ever be the same. At this point in Season 6, fear is no longer hidden. It has fully taken over the room. Every decision, every reaction, every raised voice is driven by one thing: panic. Not panic from chaos, but panic from control slipping away. The leaders sense that they are losing their grip, and when that happens, reason disappears. What replaces it is urgency, cruelty, and irreversible choices. Jesus is brought before power, not justice. The questioning feels less like an investigation and more like a desperate attempt to force an answer that can justify what they already planned to do. When he finally speaks, his words are not loud or dramatic. They are calm, measured, and absolute. And that is what seals everything. Truth spoken without fear is more dangerous than rebellion. The moment he affirms who he is, the decision is made. There is no discussion after that, only outrage pretending to be authority. This is where the season becomes emotionally suffocating. You can feel how fast everything moves, how little time anyone has to process what's happening. There is no pause to reflect, no space to question morality. Once fear takes control, momentum does the rest. People stop asking what is right and start asking what is easiest.